Oh, goodness. I just don't want to talk about it. Wow. This is a topic that we've discussed very often. And it's something that is extraordinarily challenging for every one of us. And that is to watch our mouth, to guard our words, to think before we speak, to not speak Lashon Hara, which would, of course, include gossip, talebearing, judgmental attitudes, but not just limited to that. What about cursing ourselves or cursing our circumstances, or saying things such as, well, I don't see how that's going to work out, or I don't see how that's going to happen, or I just don't see that happening, or I can't imagine that working, things like that. We we use our tongues, and we believe most people have come to realize that the power of life and death is in the tongue, and yet we still struggle with watching our words. So I just don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to, because we have to remind ourselves. All of us need reminding that our mouth has the power of abracadabra. I've taught about this, right? Abracadabra, that that is actually a Jewish thing. You can look it up. The abracadabra concept comes from Judaism. You can look, again, we've discussed this. You can look it up for yourself. But some say that it means that I will have what I say. And so hence it became a term used for magicians and things like that. But originally it was utilized as a type of remedy for healing the sick. In fact, there was an amulet that they would make with an upside down triangle and put abracadabra written out in Hebrew letters. I actually used to have one right here that I wrote for myself. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I wrote it out like this. This is not the best rendition, so please don't judge me. But I used my calligraphy pen, which, Corin, by the way, you're an amazing calligrapher. I know you're watching, but this is my version of calligraphy. But this is the abracadabra. I'm going to hold this up for the camera. This is the abracadabra and how it was written. Now, my triangle got a little sideways. So again, I'm not an artist. But in any case, that's essentially how it was done. I just want to hold that up for a second. That's the abracadabra. That's the way it was written. Abracadabra. And it was kind of written with these letters going down until you have the aleph at the bottom, just like that. And so anyway, it goes to the point I wanted to bring that up again is that the power of our speech, the power of our words, the power of our tongue is immense. And yet it's like we misuse it all the time. Why is this relevant to our conversation about Metzora? Why? Well, because a Metzora is somebody who has been stricken with Zarat. And the reason that they have the Zarat is because of the spiritual problem of not guarding the mouth, as Mayam Loez is about to tell us as we dive into this discussion. Some of you are familiar with handling firearms. Not everybody is. There's a lot of examples, I guess, you could use, but I'm going to use the example of handling firearms because I've done that a lot. Right. So I've had the opportunity in my life. It's been pretty interesting to fire everything from, a 50 cal machine gun to, or I should actually put it this way. I have shot everything from a 22 to a bazooka and everything in between. Okay. And so I've had lots of experience with firearms. And a weapon, a firearm is a tool. And so it can't hurt you by itself. Only the person using it can hurt you. The weapon itself cannot hurt you. However, having said that, you handle a firearm with care. There are certain protocols that you follow. safety protocols and so on and so forth. And, you don't ever point at anybody. You don't put your finger on the trigger. I mean, you learn these things. And as you handle firearms, and you do so professionally, as I have in my life, that, you kind of becomes ingrained in you. So why? Because, you don't want to accidentally, God forbid, shoot anybody. That would be beyond horrible. And yet, when it comes to our tongue, we rarely implement any safety protocols. We just shoot our mouth off all the time, and we're shooting people that we don't even know. And the problem is that some people use Lashon Hara, by the way, as you know. Some people use Lashon Hara, gossip, evil speech, whatever. They use it maliciously to damage a person. Does it do damage? Yes. But who does it really affect? It affects the person who's speaking, really. And that's something else. If anything should motivate us, maybe self-preservation might be a motivator. I've seen people, for instance, speak Lashon Hara against a person because they wanted to see that person destroyed. They wanted to see them, through what, for whatever reason. They don't like them, jealousy, whatever. And what happens? The person's not destroyed. Is their reputation harmed? Sure. But what happens? The person who spoke to Lashon Hara basically lives in squalor. They're not a success. So anyway, self-preservation might be a motivation for us. But the bottom line is we have to guard our tongue. And Ma'am Loez is going to explain this to us as we read these insights. It's just a reminder. And it's a great reminder, right? Because we're about to enter into Pesach. We're about to go through this spiritual portal where we have renewal. It's another opportunity to renew the covenant. We have many opportunities throughout the year to renew the covenant, to enter back into Torah observance. And one of the biggest things is our mouth, cursing people. But I also want to remind us, cursing ourselves. A lot of times we can curse ourselves. We do it all the time. And we just got to watch it. I don't know what else to say other than this is one of the things. This is the Lashon Hara is one of the most egregious sins. And at the same time, it's one of those things which is so easily committed. But anyway, we're going to get to all this. We're going to discuss Ma'am Loez and get right to it. Good morning, Lori. Hope you're doing great. See you have your coffee ready. I hope it's tasty. Good morning, Amana. Hope you're doing well and being blessed. Ariella, good morning to you, ma'am. Hepzibah, good morning. Peaches, formerly from Georgia, good morning. Zake and Yagal, Boker Tov to you. Denise, good morning. Good to see you here this morning. Leah, hope you and Eliezer are doing fantastic. Chanel, bonjour. Good morning, Clayton from Helena, Arkansas. Greg Grant, good morning to you, sir. Hope you and your family are doing fantastic. Thomas Holt, there he is, watching from Eastern Tennessee, beautiful part of the United States. Hope you're doing fantastic. Gianna, come back, Gianna. Good morning, Isaac. Hope you're doing fantastic as well. We fit to learn about the hardest thing ever. Boy, isn't that true, Isaac? It is so true. Good morning, Marita. Hope you're doing great. And who else? There's Corin. Good morning, Corin. Hope you and Moshe are doing fantastic. Can't wait to see you guys. We need to chat on the phone call soon. On the video chat. You remember watching those, for those of you who are a little bit more mature. You remember watching those shows in the 80s, those sci-fi movies where they have the video calls and so forth. And we used to look at that and think, man, that's so far out. Remember the term far? Who remembers the term far out? That by itself is antiquated. But anyway, now we just walk around doing video call. Back in the 80s, they were doing a video call on a big monitor with like a big suitcase thing. And now we're just doing it with this little pocket thing. It's crazy, isn't it? Anyway, enough about that. Who else do we have? We said, where'd I leave off? My little thing jumped up. I hate it when it does that. We said good morning to Corey. There is okay, I'm sorry. Pardon me for losing my place. Good morning, Sergio. Hope you're doing great. Good morning, Ami. Kelly Allard. Good morning to you, ma'am. Brenda Jones. Chris and Crystal, good to see you. Yeshai and Adaya, I can't wait to see you guys. Hope you're doing great. Good morning to you, First Love from Pennsylvania. Lantern Lights, good morning to you as well. Who else do we have? Ahava, did I say good morning to you, Ahava? I think I maybe did, but maybe I didn't. Good morning, Leah and Shmuel. Hope you're doing great. Lynn, good morning to you. And who else do we have? Jacob Granados. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning to you, Milka. Hope you're doing great. And Michelle, good morning, Michelle. Dana, good morning to you. Hope you're doing fantastic. And Jeff White, good morning again, Mr. White, watching from West Texas. And who else? Haas, good morning. Haniel, good morning. Look at all these precious people. Carl White, did I say good morning, Carl? Sometimes I say your name twice because there are actually so many people, which is a blessing. But and there's Emmanuel watching from Africa. Good morning, Smiley. All right, so all you people are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Kathy Castaneda, good morning to you. And Grace, good morning. Yeah, so and Matthew Morriston, good morning to you as well. We had like 80 people on the program yesterday, and that was really neat. And so that's such a blessing. Glad that everybody is here on a regular basis, and appreciate all of you who watch on a regular basis and enjoy the program. Good morning, Heck Martin. Hope you're doing fantastic as well. And so many people watching from the United Kingdom lately, I've noticed. So which is great. I know that probably excites Keturah. Oh, Great Britain, good morning. So glad you're here. I think that's cool. So anyway, enough of that. Let's look at Mam Loez and see what he says about guarding our tongue, watching our mouth. It's so hard. I'd want to talk about something else. Let's talk about cat videos and unicorns. Well, okay. Let's talk about stuff that we really have to work on. Let's look. Okay, so where are we? Mam Loez. He says this is his introduction to the portion of Metzora. Good morning, Kristen. Excuse me, everybody. Pardon me for 1 second. I meant to ask Kristen about her Erev Shabbat and how that went. She just said, "Thank you again for your prayers for Erev Shabbat last week. It was well received by some, but not all." Okay, well, good. At least you had some success. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I try to train myself, and this is just for you, Kristen, and the whosoever's. I interact with people all the time on the channel mostly, but sometimes in other media as well. And you want to go back and forth with people, and I've tried to train myself. Excuse me for the stutter. I've tried to train myself to discern whether or not the person with whom I'm conversing is a holy spark or not. Sometimes that's more challenging to figure out because you're not having you're having these conversations. You're not able to hear the tone and so forth of the question, so you're not really. It's hard to figure out if the person with whom you're conversing is really interested in learning, or are they just trying to argue. But I've really tried to pull the eject cord when I figure out that the person's not a holy spark, because I'm wasting my time. It's not, and this is nothing against them. Maybe someday they'll be a holy spark, but I'm here to reach holy sparks. I'm here to reach people who really, really want to serve the true God and the true Messiah. And if you just want to argue, then you're in the wrong place. So anyway, Kristen, let that be hopefully an encouragement that, some people are open, some people are not, but that's okay. You're looking for those diamonds, right? Good morning, Shmuel. All right. So it says, God spoke to, this is from 14:1-2. God spoke to Moses saying, "This is the law concerning the leper when he is purified and placed under the jurisprudence of the priest." And Mam Loez starts out, by the way, and says, "We will now discuss the portion of Metzora in the Torah. This portion consists of 7 chapters." All right. So this is what he says. In the previous chapter, we discussed that this leprous curse is not a natural disease. Rather, it comes about because of 7 sins. It is generally brought about by malicious speech, which is also known as lashon hara. Lashon hara. Lashon is like the tongue of speech, speaking. Hebrew, incidentally, is referred to as lashon hakodesh, the holy tongue. And hara, ra is like, a rasha, ra, evil, etc. So it says, this is alluded to in the verse which says, this is the law of the Metzora. The Hebrew word for a leper is Metzora. This word can be seen as an abbreviation of not rekon for the word motzi shemra, which denotes slander, because a person slanders his friend. As a result, he is punished with the leprous curse. We could talk at length, I guess, about the root cause of lashon hara, and there are many causes, many root causes. I mean, one is arrogance, right? One is haughtiness, which is related naturally. Would you agree that another would be jealousy? Jealous of people, jealous of their stuff, the evil eye, Hephzibah, low self-esteem. How can I forget that? Thank you, Hephzibah. Low self-esteem. We have, and low self-esteem comes into play also, ladies and gentlemen, with cursing ourselves. Now, we talked about this last week about having a healthy self-esteem, and having a healthy self-esteem will alleviate a great deal of problems in our life. It's really important that we work on a healthy self-esteem. And we talked about this, but just to reiterate, having a healthy pride in yourself, a healthy understanding of your gifts and talents, and so on and so forth. And yeah, that's really great. So let's continue on here. He says here, moreover, when a person speaks maliciously about his neighbor, it is considered as if he had violated. Listen to this. Let me start over. Pardon me. Moreover, when a person speaks maliciously about his neighbor, it is considered as if he had violated all 5 books of the Torah. We therefore see that the word Torah, translated as law, is written here 5 times. Actually, it's written once in the previous chapter and 4 times in this chapter, and the citations are as follows. This is the law of the leprous mark, chapter 13, verse 59. This is the law of the Metzora, 14:2. This is the law of one who has the mark of leprosy, 14:33. This is the law of every leprous mark, 14:54. And this is the law of leprosy, 14:57. The text mentions the word Torah, law, 5 times to teach that anyone who speaks maliciously against another is considered to have violated all 5 books of the Torah. Yikes. Good morning, Radomir. All right, so let's discuss this for a moment, because what's just in general terms here, speaking generally, one of the, I would say, and you could see if you agree with me, that one of the great topics of Lashon Hara is talking about what somebody else did that was bad. Would you agree? Let's put it this way. What Torah violation, what sin did they commit? And people like to go around gossiping about that. Dude, are you aware that they did this and they did that? Have you heard that blah, 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 blah? What? Oh, no, I'm just telling you this because, so we can pray for them. Or no, I'm just saying, I'm telling you this so that, you can be protected. Would you agree with me that that's one of the biggest topics, and also I'm telling you this so we can pray for them. I'm telling this so that you can be protected. Would you agree with me that that's one of the biggest scams of the Lashon Hara thing? Well, here's the dealio. When we set about speaking slander, speaking gossip, and remember, gossip and slander, it could be true. This would include libel as well, which is in written form. But it could be true. And in fact, the matter is, it often is true, or at least a little true. But when we go around talking about other people's faults and failures and sins and what have you, in so doing, we end up violating all 5 books of the law of Moses. What? And then, of course, Isaac, you asked a good question. We're going to come back to that. So then, of course, you violate all 5 books of Moses. And then, as the masters have told us before, that when somebody does this, not only are they violating all 5 books of Moses, but all of their merits are transferred to the subject of their Lashon Hara, and all the sins of their subject is transferred to them. Who needs that? Raise your hand if that's an exchange you need to make today or tomorrow or next month or ever. Crazy, right? This is something for us to remember. Now, Isaac asked a good question. He said, you can't warn others. You can, Isaac, and there are exceptions to the proverbial rule. However, a lot of people will use these exceptions as excuses to speak Lashon Hara, but you have to be very careful. One of the big exceptions to the rule is, yes, you can warn others. However, you can only do this if there is absolutely zero trace of any type of personal grudge or anything against the person you're talking about at all. If you're gonna go warn somebody about something related to them and you hate their ever-loving guts, you can't say a thing. Why? Because you're testifying with the wrong spirit, with the wrong attitude. Okay. Now, however, let's just say hypothetically that I knew that Charlie had worked for a bank and he got in trouble with embezzlement. Okay. Let's just say that I knew that. I just happen to know that information. And then I found out that Ari, who owns a bank, was going to hire Charlie, who just got dismissed from the bank that he had been working at because of embezzlement, to go work for Ari. I'd have to be very careful, but I am possibly within my purview to talk to Ari and give him a heads up and say, you might want to check in on this topic, because that could potentially put him and all of the members of his bank in significant jeopardy. Okay. That's a possible example. All right. So you can warn people. All right. But you have to be careful, and you have to make sure that there's no animosity. I can't, if I didn't like Charlie at all, and I thought he was just a terrible person, and he had done me wrong, he had done me dirty at some point in my life, then I can't say anything, because I'm not doing it out of a pure motive. Does that make sense? You have to be very, very careful. And people utilize or try to utilize these exceptions to the rule loosey-goosey. Why? Because they just want to destroy the person, or they have some other motive. And that's really the point. You have to check yourself and say, am I really doing this to protect somebody, or do I have another motive deep down? You have to be honest with yourself. And most people are not capable of being honest with themselves. Okay. So it says here, this is what the scripture says. Do not cause your mouth to make your flesh sin. Do not say before the angel that it was an accident. Why should God be angry at your voice and destroy the work of your hands? Ecclesiastes 5:5. Oh, yikes. Don't let your mouth cause your flesh to sin. Man. And by the way, it's really hard to do this in period. But what about when people start speaking Lashon Hara about you? Oh man, doesn't the retaliation Yetzer Hara rise up in you? Doesn't it? What about when somebody curses you? What about when somebody calls you a liar or a fake, a fraud, or whatever? What about when we have a rule amongst the Beit Din is that we just don't discuss stuff. Meaning that, if something goes sideways with somebody, it is a tight lip, loose lips sink ships. But what happens when that person goes out there and starts putting forth a dishonest narrative? This has happened before. Puts out a dishonest narrative. Oh, they were mean to me. They kicked me out. They told me this. They told me that. We've heard this kind of stuff before. It gets back to us. They just kicked me out. Oh, whatever the narrative is, right? What do? You go correct the narrative? No. You just remain silent and let HaShem take care of it. And of course he does, right? But I'm just telling you, these are all the challenges that we face, right? So when somebody's speaking Lashon Hara about you, what do? Keep your mouth shut. That's what you do. That's so hard. It's very easy to say, right? And I'm not one of these teachers that gets up here and tells you about hard things and makes it sound like it's so easy to do. Just keep your mouth shut. If you say something, then you are a pathetic pagan. No, I'm up here to tell you it's hard to do. It's difficult, right? I'm not going to sit there and gaslight you and pretend like you're just so weak because you can't keep your mouth shut. No, you're human, as am I, as we all are. Okay? So it says, one of the curses with which God cursed the original serpent who tempted Eve was that his skin would be covered with leprosy all his life because he spoke maliciously against God. Wow. That's right. I mean, I just happened to see your comment rather. That's what Yeshua did when they were cursing him. It's not easy. Boy, can you imagine? I can't even imagine that. Yeshua had the power just to wipe them all off the face of the earth. And all he had to do is speak a word. But you know what? It's a great example. It's a great comment. It's a great way. Leah, great Arnold the president. You're welcome. All right, so it says here, when a person engages in malicious gossip, he causes a separation between husband and wife. That's really bad. Or between man and his friend. That's also bad. Therefore, from on high, he is made to be a leper, where he must be separated from his friends and no one can stand near him. Did you hear that? So you say, well, the leprosy doesn't manifest on them physically, does it? Not necessarily. But then again, how do we know? But putting that aside, at the very least, they're a Metzora in the spirit. And don't you see this? Don't you see? I know I've seen it. I have seen it where people who speak Lashon Hara against other people, and next thing you know, they're on their own. They're in their living room doing their own thing. Nobody wants to be around them. They have like two friends. And usually the two friends they have are the ones they sucked into their black hole with the Lashon Hara. And so they're now isolated. Nobody wants to be around them. They lose their reputation. Have you seen this? I've seen it. Nobody wants to be around such a person. So it says, by the way, usually with most people, unless you're, with most people who are rational, we generally want people to like us. I mean, we people in general want to be likable people. And so with that motive, let that be another motivation, because nobody likes to be around somebody who runs their mouth all the time, but in particularly, obviously, in a negative way. Nobody likes to be around such a person. Okay. So if you're that person where you find that when you open your mouth, 9 times out of 10, something negative comes out, you've got to fix that. It's not okay. You've got to stop with the negativity, whether it's about yourself, which, by the way, is also very annoying. Okay, when somebody continually runs themselves down, that's not humility. That's actually very annoying. Or when you're running other people down or whatever, you've got to fix that. Stop doing that. Let positivity roll out. And listen, all of us need this. You say, well, this must be for somebody else. No, it's for you. It's for me. It's for everybody. Okay. If a person speaks maliciously against another, God curses him and says that he should be cursed just as a serpent. Therefore, the Torah says, cursed shall be he who strikes his friend in a hidden manner. And all the people said, Amen. Deuteronomy 27:24. The Torah here is not speaking about one who is literally striking his friend. This would appear to indicate that one who strikes his friend openly does not deserve punishment. But we know that if one strikes his friend publicly, he deserves an even greater punishment since he's embarrassing him in front of others. The sages write about embarrassing or shaming someone, publicly, that it's better for you to have a millstone wrapped around your neck and thrown into the ocean, or thrown into a fire. I think thrown into a fire is what is often used, than to publicly embarrass or shame someone. Embarrassing someone or shaming them publicly is about the worst thing that a Jew could do. As I said, the sages say, better for you to be thrown into a fire. Now think about that for a moment. Just put that in perspective. Take a step, sit back, sip your coffee, and say, how bad would it be if I was literally thrown into a fiery furnace? What would that experience be like? Well, I'm going to suggest that it would be uncomfortable, to say the least, right? Okay. Therefore, understand that when or if, God forbid, we publicly humiliate, embarrass, right? Or disgrace or dishonor somebody in public, that is actually worse than being thrown into a fiery furnace. Okay? So the next time we're talking about this with our mouth, we should understand that that's the situation. That's terrible, isn't it? Okay. So when the Torah speaks about striking one's friend in a hidden manner, it refers to one who strikes him with his tongue, speaking maliciously against him. When a person speaks maliciously, he does so in a hidden manner so that the victim will not be aware of it. Well, that's also something else that's true. And most people who speak Lashon Hara are cowards. They're cowards. They would never say this face to face in front of their victim. Most people who speak Lashon Hara could not fight their way out of a wet paper bag. And so they would never dare say this in front of somebody else because they're scared little chickens. And so let that be another motivation. Am I a coward? Am I a little chicken? I can't fight myself out of a wet paper bag? Then I need to wash my mouth, because somebody who speaks Lashon Hara is somebody who's too scared, too cowardly to have a confrontation or a conversation with somebody that might be uncomfortable. And I'll tell you something else. The person who speaks Lashon Hara, generally speaking here, doesn't want to have that conversation because they know that whatever their pet little problem is, they're going to get destroyed and they're going to be proven to be wrong. They're going to be proven that their little pet issue, whatever it is foolish, and that whatever their thing is, that they're lying about the circumstances or whatever it is. And if they bring it out into a forum in which these things can be fleshed out, they're going to be proven to be silly. They know that already. Okay. They know it already. So you see, is any of this working to help us understand the root motives? We have to think about these things. So it says the Torah then says that he should be accursed. Okay. One who speaks maliciously is very much like one. Listen to this. Oh my goodness. One who speaks maliciously is very much like one who denies God. We thought that Lashon Hara was bad. It just got worse. By speaking Lashon Hara, we violate all 5 books of the law. By speaking Lashon Hara, we deny God. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is another motivation for us. People curse me all the time. They do you too. I'm just using an example. They get on the channel. They don't like what I said. So I'm a liar. I'm a fraud. I'm a cult leader. I belong to the synagogue of Satan. My father's the devil. I'm blind. I'm dumb. I'm foolish. I'm stupid. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So I just need to be quiet and not even respond to those people. But what's another reason why, aside from you don't want to get down on their level and all that kind of good stuff? But what's an even better reason? Because the moment that somebody starts doing that, whether to me or to you, doesn't matter. Just using it as an example. The minute they start doing that, their fight is not against you. Now they're contending with God. And not because, please don't misunderstand, not because I'm some, whatever. It's just that it doesn't matter if it was you or me or anybody. The minute that they start speaking Lashon Hara against you, they start denying God. They start violating his word. See, now their contention is with HaShem. That's why you can step out of it, because, hey, this is not between you and me. It's between y'all, right? This is you guys now. And that's the point I'm trying to make. So now you can feel comfort that you don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to say, well, I'm not a liar. I'm not a cult leader. I'm not this, that, or the other. Okay. You can step back and say, well, this is not even really about me. It's between you and HaShem. Does that make sense? Does that help you now say, you know what, I can stop taking it personal? And don't take it personal anyway, because most of the time, the people that curse you don't even know you. So what can they possibly be saying that's true, right? So it says, one should not be surprised at the teaching of our sages that one who speaks maliciously is stricken with leprosy. It is true that we see many people who speak maliciously and who remain healthy and whole without any mark on their skin. However, one must realize that the leprosy mentioned in the Torah can afflict either the body or the soul. If it does not strike a person's body, it strikes the soul. So don't think that just because the person doesn't have obvious zarat, that this is not negatively impacting them. It absolutely is. Okay. So it goes on to say, spiritual leprosy is even worse than physical leprosy. Every night when the soul ascends on high, all the spiritual beings are repelled by it and announce before the soul that it is unclean. As the Torah says, he shall call out unclean, unclean. 1345. Wow. We'll wrap it up there, but because there's more I want to share, I may come back tomorrow and share the other half of this. It's probably worth reading. But let me just end there, because what it's talking about here is that every night when we go to bed, for the Jew, our soul ascends to heaven, and the purpose of the soul going to heaven is to be refreshed, to be restored, to have conversations with HaShem. Now, you say, well, I don't remember doing that. Well, that's neither here nor there. But what if we've been speaking Lashon Hara? If we're speaking Lashon Hara, then we become like the Metzora. And when our soul goes to Shemayim, when we're sleeping, instead of enjoying the comfort of the community, We're outside the community and we have to cry out, unclean, unclean. And all the angelic hosts say that about us. Wow. So what do we have to learn from all this? Guard your tongue. Watch your mouth. Don't speak Lashon Hara. And if you feel like it's necessary, you probably need to talk to me or the Rebbetzin or Zakin's wife before saying anything, just to make sure that your motivation is pure, because it's too dangerous to do otherwise. So thank you so much for being here. I hope this has been informational and inspirational to all of you. Most of all, I hope it motivates us to really watch it and make to do a better job at watching our tongue and guarding our mouth. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until then, have a great and blessed day. Shalom Aleichem to all of you.